Welcome to On Our Watch, a podcast about coastal erosion and sustainability in Louisiana. My name is Marian Evans. I'm a filmmaker and a producer of the documentary On Our Watch, a feature-length film that examines Louisiana's coastal land loss crisis and the ways in which it impacts our communities, industries, and culture. The film's director, Jonathan Evans, and I are proud to produce this podcast series that will continue to explore issues facing the Louisiana coast through conversations with local residents, community leaders, and experts. In this episode, we're speaking with Alisha Renfro. Alisha is the Senior Manager for Science Policy and the Gulf Program at the National Wildlife Federation, a conservation organization that's part of the Restore the Mississippi River Delta's 5-group coalition. And now, our interview with Alisha Renfro. Well, thank you, Alisha, for talking to me today. So I wanted to ask you about how you first became interested in coastal work and what was it that made you want to study this type of environment?
Sure. So it's a little bit of an unlikely thing because I am a farm girl from Indiana who's as far away from the coast as one could possibly be. But when I was going to college, I decided I wanted to actually do marine science. I'm not sure why. I always was interested in the coast. We would go on vacation every year to South Carolina. So that's where I ended up going to school, getting involved in coastal work. And I took a class in my undergrad that was about coastal management. And that's really kind of where it really opened my eyes to understand that, you know, it is about these coastal environments and people are drawn to them and attracted to them. They want to live in these places. They're really special, but there's a lot that goes with that, whether that's, you know, rising sea levels or hurricanes. There's questions that you have to answer in order to actually live in these environments long term. And then I really started studying a lot in coastal wetlands, how sediment moves and is deposited in coastal wetlands and how they can be sustained over long periods of time. For a long time, an eye of coming down to Louisiana, working in Louisiana, because while throughout the U.S., throughout much of the world, people on the coast are going to have to struggle with these issues. Louisiana's been struggling for a long time with these issues, and they are really complicated. We have lots of different people who use the coast in different ways, which makes restoration and kind of climate resilience more of a challenge than you might see in other places. And so working in this place to understand what are the tools that we have, what can we do, and how can we actually then use what we learn here in Louisiana and export it to other places, use that knowledge to help other places also be more sustainable in the long term.
Yeah, seems like coastal environment is very dynamic. There's a lot of different things at play for you to study.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces and things change year to year, like what the major issues are. So It's important.
What do you think is special about the Louisiana coast in particular, and what do you love about the Louisiana wetlands?
What I really love, they're so unassuming in many ways. Like a lot of people can look at coastal wetlands and just think they're these like grassy, watery places, but they're so important in so many different ways. There's so much life that goes on just under the surface that you don't see. They're important nurseries for our fish. They help protect us against storm surge. There's so many ways the wetlands are really important. And to me, they're just like one of the most special places. They're amazing and diverse environments. I love them.
Yeah, it's kind of unlike anywhere else.
Yeah, they're crazy.
So can you tell me a little bit about the work that the National Wildlife Federation is doing here in Louisiana and how it functions within the Restore the Mississippi River Delta coalition?
Mm-hmm. So National Wildlife Federation, we actually work across the Gulf Coast doing climate resilience work. A lot of our work is focused here in Louisiana and then also in Florida, another place that's very vulnerable to sea level rise and hurricanes. Here in Louisiana, our work really focuses in on restoration of the Mississippi River Delta, making sure that we can maximize the amount of funding that actually comes back to the coast, that we're investing in the right types of coastal restoration projects that see not only benefits now, but over the long term. Like how can we use suites of projects that work together to create a better future for Louisiana? And so as part of that work, we work within the Mississippi River Delta Coalition, which is 5 environmental organizations that work hand in hand. It's National Wildlife Federation, Environmental Defense Fund, National Audubon Society, Coalition to Restore Coastal Louisiana, and the Pontchartrain Conservancy. And we kind of come together and pool our resources, our expertise on science, policy, outreach, and communications to try and tell the story of why Louisiana is important and why people not just in Louisiana but outside of Louisiana should care about what happens here and make investments in Louisiana's future.
Yeah. Do you like having that connection with the other organizations and being able to kind of work together on things?
Yeah, I feel like we have a much more powerful voice as we work together because we all sort of have certain expertise that we're better at than other things. And so we're coming together really helps elevate that and helps us do things that we would never be able to do as individual organizations.
Right. So I know that you engage in a lot of scientific research as part of your job here. Is there a particular research topic that you're most focused on currently?
So I think a lot of what I've done over the last years, we have done a lot of modeling work along with Tulane University to understand what might be possible with things like sediment diversion projects and how you might use those together. But we've also funded some work and done some hands-on work understanding places that are actually building land right now where there are connections between the river and the surrounding coastal areas. Places like Neptune Pass, West Bay, those are really important areas for us to better understand what is possible. The river can still build land, and it does, and we just need to understand how does that all work? What timelines can we expect land to be built? And then as that kind of takes hold, what does that environment look like for the long term?
Mm-hmm. And so when you're doing your research, what does that look like? Are you going into the wetlands and...
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes it's sitting at my desk and
Yeah.
and doing it, but sometimes it's like going into the wetlands, so like I work with a group right now looking at Neptune Pass, where it's a combination of using like drone imagery, satellite imagery, as well as some equipment that can actually see what's happening under the water to see like how land is forming, how fast it's forming, to understand what might be possible in the future. There are some questions. Neptune Pass has expanded over time. The Corps is looking to decrease the amount of flow, but I think they want to keep that land building. How do you actually do that in an effective way? How do you actually balance the navigation, the flood protection, and the restoration needs that we have in Louisiana?
What are some of the challenges to translating your research into something that's easily understandable and can be used for coastal advocacy and the outreach that you guys do?
So scientists are not taught to talk to the public. We are taught, like any field, we have our own jargon, and it's so easy to get just immersed in that and never be able to actually speak one-on-one to people in a way that's understandable. And thankfully, in our coalition, we have really great communications team that helps translate that. I mean, over the years, I've learned to be better about it, but I really still rely on the communications team to be like, what are you talking about here? Can you say it in a plainer way? But it really is it's just practice and time. And I really think as a field in general, we need to do better about teaching scientists how to communicate with the public, because it can be very frustrating from the public's point of view if they feel like they're being talked down to or condescended to, when that's not really the intention. It's just that, we still speak in acronyms and jargon and all these things. And I still get caught up in acronyms are like the bane of my existence. I know many of that, but still people talk in acronyms so much. I'm like, I don't know what that acronym means.
Yeah, because when a regular person can understand an issue and it clicks with them, then that's when they can actually do something to make a change.
And people in Louisiana, because there is so much connection to the coast, they understand the coast in a lot of ways. And they might not have the right scientific words that scientists use, but they have a lot of understanding of what's going on the coast.
Right, yeah. What are some of the most important coastal restoration projects that you would like to see accomplished here in Louisiana?
So we have a lot of projects that are currently underway, and it's great to see. It feels like every marsh creation project we're finishing now is the largest we've ever done. And so that kind of continues. Hopefully we'll continue that moving forward. So we have the Lakeboard Marsh Creation Project, which I think is currently underway. It's going to be finished pretty soon, which will be the largest marsh creation project we've ever done. I think for me, what's really important are projects like the Mid-Barataria Sediment Diversion. This is a project that the concept has been around for 30, 40 years at this point, and they are starting construction. That's a gated structure built into the river levees that can be open and closed to capture the sediment flowing down the river and actually put it back out into the wetlands, recreating the process that actually once built coastal Louisiana and that we shut off, back in the early 1900s.
And what would you say that you like most about your job?
It's never boring. There's always new things to do and explore. I think Louisiana is currently moving into a period of time where not only do we have a lot of restoration projects that are coming online, that we are sort of ahead of the game, not even just at the Gulf Coast, but around the country, where a lot of places are actually looking to see what Louisiana has done. And it feels good to go into spaces where you have other people who work in other parts of the country where like, well, in Louisiana, like we have a coastal master plan. We've been thinking about this and doing this a lot. And so it's great to see it all come together and actually start to take the things that we've done in Louisiana, the ideas that we've tested, and export them to other places, help other places figure out how do you do this in a real, thoughtful way. Because before we had the Coastal Master Plan process, we've been doing restoration for a long time, but it was these kind of little random acts of restoration rather than kind of this cohesive vision of what could be. So I'm really proud of the progress that we've made and we continue to make. We're just at the start of a big challenge, and we'll continue to have to kind of walk uphill, drag things uphill to get restoration done and working, and we're going to need more funding. And hopefully the work Louisiana has done has shown the federal government like we're responsible with the money, we're responsible with our investments, and we can be trusted to actually continue to be that way.
That's cool. It's like kind of like a leader for other coastal cities around the world of like what can be done and what's possible.
Yeah. And we see that with like Texas has now kind of done their own coastal master plan process. Florida is starting there. So people are like catching on and realizing, okay, yeah, we have to have a vision of what this looks like, especially because there are all these federal funds out there in the world right now. You got to be ready for it. You got to be prepared to like jump on it and actually get that money to do the work that needs to be done.
Yeah. Are there any important lessons that you've learned over the course of your career working in this field?
The science part is the easy part. The people part is a lot harder. And you're never going to come to an agreement with everybody about what should be done. When you get, it sounds all nice and good, but when you get down to the details, there are going to be disagreements. And it's really about trying to find the best balance that you can and making sure that you're doing the right thing, that you're taking care of people as much as you can in these tough times. Like we're all struggling when it comes to things like hurricanes, and like understanding that the investments we make are maybe not the easiest answers, but we can work together to figure out how to make it work for everyone.
Yeah. So just considering everyone's needs in mind when you're doing. Yeah.
It's never boring.
Well, thank you so much for talking to me today, Alisha. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, thank you for talking to me.
Thanks. Thank you for listening to On Our Watch. We hope you enjoyed our discussion with Alisha Renfro. Don't forget to subscribe to On Our Watch on your favorite podcast app to be notified about future episodes. You can also watch a video version of this podcast on YouTube, which you can find a link to in the description. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back with another episode next week. This podcast is made possible through grant funds from the Greater New Orleans Foundation and executive produced by Bruno UK Steiner.